Good day. Today we're going to learn how to monitor and take an action based on a threshold using MainView SRM. So we're going to start with the add func view, which is a list of all of our functions. So typing in add func would pull up a list of functions. We're going to start with AutoPool because we're going to base it on a threshold for a storage group or a pool. So we're going to right click, go to our line action and edit the R list. Now I have one already coded here, so we're going to just scroll down, and it's called prodmon2. It's right here. We'll highlight it so that you can see it. And in the automation solutions, you always set a solution. So setting the solution criteria or value allows multiple resources to be enacted upon within a rule. Unlike the allocation rules within SRM, once it's matched, it gets out of the rule or it gets out of the code. Here, once it matches to solution, that gets out of the code. But any of the resources associated with that solution could be used further down in another solution. So we're only looking for solutions. So we have to give it a solution name, and we're going to call it prodmon2. And we're going to create an event ID called APTS1. This goes over to our event member where we can put in our own text, send that to the syslog, or send it to auto operator, or send it to another automation engine for maybe creating an email or taking some other action that's outside of what SRM is going to provide from an automation standpoint. Our include statement is right here. So what is the resources that we're going to take an action on, or we're going to actually be including here? So it has to be a storage group. Can't be a SRM defined pool. It has to be an SMS managed storage group. And it has to be above 90% full. So any storage group that's above 90% full will get managed. And those resources will be used into this SVOS command for AutoDS. AutoDS will actually take the action. So we're going to do some migration, or we may do some data set moves or some other action. But in this case, we're going to do a solution called migrate L2. So more than likely, we're going to do some migration. And since we're basing it on any storage group, we're just going to do a variable substitution for the group for that storage group that reached its threshold of 90%. All right. And we have another keyword here called data equals hist. So data equals hist basically uses the existing dataset repository information that is currently collected for the day and use that data for its input. If I didn't use data equals hist, it would create a new repository. So it would run a data collection for the data sets for any group that was in the substitution. So even though I'm using data equals hist, if I wanted to run this multiple times during the day, I may not want to use data equals hist. And since I'm only substituting one storage group at a time instead of doing every storage group, it wouldn't be any overhead doing that. So I could do that, but I'm just using data equals hist. I'm going to keep this to maybe just run it, schedule it just once a day, maybe at the end of the day before I go home. All right. So let's go take a look at the AutoDS solution or function, and let's see what our criteria is in terms of what would be eligible for an action. So we're going to come over here to AutoDS. We're going to do a right click and we're going to edit the rule list. We have a lot of rules in here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a search. So we're going to go up here, do a search. We're going to search for that solution, migrate L2. It's lowercase, so we're going to click the ignore case so we can find it just in case. All right, so there's our solution. So let's highlight what our criteria, so what our inputs are, or what our excludes are. So we're actually going to sort it by the days descending. So this is the number of days unreferenced descending. We're not going to create an event ID. It's commented out, but we could. But for each resource that is included, it would create a separate event ID unless we used another keyword that would bundle it up. But since we don't really care about knowing the individual data sets at this point, we're just going to leave that commented out. And we need to put a job. So, what are we going to use to do this action? So we have some skeleton JCL, and the job is MV pound MIG L2, and we're actually going to cap it at 20. So we're only going to do 20 data sets at a time. Now, if I wanted to just include all of them, I could, but we're only going to include 20 because we're taking the oldest days non-referenced, and we're just going to take the 20 oldest data sets. All right. And we're going to exclude all the VSAM and partition data sets. And the dash means an undefined DSORG. So a data set that does not have an end of file marker. So we're going to exclude those. We're also going to exclude the non-MIG management class. Those would not be eligible for migration anyway, so we're going to exclude them. No sense in trying to migrate them. And we're going to exclude any data sets that start with SYS. So this would exclude any sys1.vtoc, sys1.bbds, or any other sys1 data sets, or sys2, or any other true temporary data sets, because we don't want to migrate those. And then what we're going to actually key on is it has to be greater than 10 days unreferenced, and the tracks allocated has to be greater than 500 tracks. Now, in the monitor, we included any storage group that was above 90%. But because there are lots of storage groups, could be DB2, could be an IMS, could be some kind of vendor product storage group where we have product libraries in, we're gonna limit this to specific storage groups. Even though there could be a lot of storage groups eligible, we're only gonna allow if the storage group is either TSO or product or test. And since I can use this solution migrate level L2 in a lot of different monitor solutions, I have an AD_pool called work pool. So this is an SRM defined pool, just in case I wanted to use this, because I could use this for ad hoc, or I could use it in another monitor. And that other monitor would include SRM defined pools, and work pool is something that I would want to consider. So I've just added them all in here because this would be all the criteria that I would use. So once I've defined my criteria for the resources to take an action on, we're going to save this. All right. Now I need to determine when do I want to run this. So I have to have either a schedule in my policy definition or a service in my schedule services. So since we're going to do this just once a day, and we're not going to really worry about associating it to a policy because those storage groups may be in different policy definitions, we're going to set it up in schedule services. So let's go to our schedule services view. So SCHD-SRV, schedule services. We're going to pull up a list of our services here. Let's sort these by the command. So we have a couple of AutoPOOL services already set up. So one is testmon for a solution, advol, mytest, pool SPC. I do not have one for prodmon2. So why don't we just create one? So we're going to go to line action. We're just going to take an existing AutoPOOL solution or service, and we're going to do a copy. So we're going to do a copy and create a new one. We're going to actually keep this as prodmon2. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to say OK. All right. So that one's been copied. And we see that prodmon2 has been created, and there is no ID associated to it right now. It's empty because we haven't done a refresh. We haven't brought anything into the system. So there's nothing going on yet. But we need to set up the schedule for this service. So when do we want to execute it? What days of the week? What time of the day? What system do we want to run this on? That kind of, and what is the command? So let's we're going to do the line command. We're going to update this interval. All right. So we have our command AutoPool solution equals pool SPC. So let's just back out of this, and we're going to do pool. So the solution is prodmon2, and the group equals ampersand group. All right. So since we're doing some substitutions, we can do substitution here also. We know that there's only 3, so I could have done group equals TSO comma product comma TSO, or whatever the third group was. But I could have hard coded the groups, but I'm going to do an ampersand because I'm going to check all the groups, because the AutoPool solution is to check all the storage groups. So we're going to put that in there, is that we have to make it active. So we're going to make it active. Get rid of this. We're actually going to run this at 1600. So 1600 every day. So 4 o'clock, like right before we go home. And we're going to run it only on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We won't run it Saturday or Sunday. So let's get rid of this. All right. And it's going to run once a day. So we have our checkbox here for once a day. We have a lot of other options that we could put in. And if we wanted to run a batch job afterwards, maybe a batch job that would go in and look at data sets that were left in the storage group, or some other type of report, we could set that up and run it at the end, but we're not going to. So we're just going to select OK. That's going to update our service, so it's been updated. So now prodmon2 still does not have, did not want to run this on BMCB. So let's just make an update here real quick. We want to run this on BMCA. So this is the LPAR we're going to run this on. All right. Okay, so let's save this. All right, so now it's been updated. Now to pull this in, so all of these changes that we've made into the system, we need to go and refresh our starter task. So we need to refresh everything that's in memory. So we can go over to the admin A screen, which gives us a list of all of our active functions. We're going to do a con space all because we have 2 LPARs and we need to bring this into both LPARs. All right, so now we have both systems, A and B. We're going to refresh A first. So we'll wait for this to come back. And we got some duplicate timer IDs, but that's okay. Refresh was successful. We're going to do B. And we don't get the same thing on B, but we do get a refresh successfully completed. All right. So that is how we set up monitoring and automation of a resource, and how to take an action on those resources based on thresholds. Thank you.